Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the TheSavageGoose show, where we talk about all things Savage Worlds in the past couple of weeks in this case. And we're going to go over, everything in the couple of weeks. We're going to go over the newsletter. We're going to go over some Kickstarters. We're going to go over a Humble Bundle. We're going to go over some new products. And then lastly, we're going to talk about a main topic. Today, we're going to talk about brainstorming a new power system that I've been toying around with for a bit. I haven't put a lot down to paper, but I want to hear what your thoughts were, what you would have to say about it. Before we kind of get into that, let's talk about the newsletter. So I did get the newsletter already for this week. Let's go ahead and pull that up and talk about what is going on in the newsletter. All right, first things off, we do have a date now for the Doomguard Kickstarter. That was going to be, I'm going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. But we do have a date. It is now July 22nd, so that's 2 weeks from now. This is going to be on the Kickstarter page. If you, there should be a link down in the description below for this Kickstarter. I'm pretty sure if I put it in there. So go ahead and check that out. I know I'm pretty bad about usually putting links on things after I say it afterwards, but this should be in the description below. But you can play in this game as members of the Doomguard from the Necessary Evil setting, and you can fight off against Cthulhu and some other monsters. And yeah, there's going to be a main game, and there's going to be some expansions for this game. And so if you're wanting to be part of Pinnacle History, where they dive into board games, go ahead and check this out. Check out the Kickstarter. I need to figure out where I'm going to get the funds to pay for this because I want to do it. But we'll figure that out. Anyways, going down, we have Savage Worlds Superpowers Companion now is available on VTT. So if you're using this for Foundry VTT, you can now get that from Foundry for Superpowers Companion. If you do that, good. Go check that out. The backer kit surveys for Deadlands Lost Colony are now out. You can make, if you did back Mad World, sorry, not Lost Colony, Deadlands Lost Colony, Mad World. There you go. If you backed this on backer kit, you can go check that out. Make sure that you get your, confirm your pledge, do any upgrades you want, make sure your address is correct, look for your email for this. And if you, for some reason, lost your email for the pledge manager, you can ask for it to be sent to you again. I got one for this for backer kit, and I also have one for Shadowdark, I think that I'm waiting for. And what's that one? Shadowdark and Han Cluster. I think that's the three that I'm waiting for right now. So yeah. Next thing we're going to talk about is the Roll Big or Go Home RPG bundle with Savage Worlds. So this released this past week. I am going to talk about this in great deal in a moment, a bit later. But basically, it's the home bundle that does include some Savage Worlds stuff. We'll definitely be talking about this because it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. If you are a fan of Battle Lords, check out this week's stream over on the Savage Universe stream. This is going to be with Anthony Oliveira from Smithfield Productions, who works on the Savage Battle Lords stuff, and they're going to be talking about some Uncle Ernie's ARM or ARM Summer Catalog, which is a book for the Battle Lords game. If you're not familiar with Battle Lords, there's two systems. There's the main Battle Lord game, and then there's also the Battle Lords game for Savage Worlds, and that game is quite intense. I have 3 of the books that were generously given to me by the team there. I'm still meaning to work on some videos here on reviews, just in general, reviews for a lot of products that I have. So you get that into the pipeline. I'm hoping to work on that soon and try to get you guys some better review videos of going over what different settings are about, different books are about, and if you should pick them up based on what your needs are. But in this case, this is what they're going to be talking about on Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern time over on the official Pinnacle Twitch channel. I think they also stream on YouTube. So if you're not a fan of Twitch, I don't personally go to Twitch ever, I always go on YouTube. Go watch on YouTube as well. I will say though, if you're a big fan of being part of the chat over at Twitch appears to be more engaged with, or busy, I should say. There's more chat between people over on the Twitch channel. So let's talk about the crowdfunding campaign as things stand. Still shipping out some stuff for Savage Worlds Fiction Companion, Science Fiction Companion. The Advanced Player's Guide 2 shipping is in progress. International shipping is still en route. The Rifts for Savage Worlds reprint is the shipping portals is opening soon. Rifts of Europa, the final files are delivered, and then they'll be in production. Then Deadlands, the Abominable Northwest, has been delivered digitally, and Lost Colony also have been delivered diligently and is in production. So we got some stuff coming that way. Yeah, and then Doomguard is coming up. So a lot going on. A lot coming. I should say, a lot is being done in the back end. There's not a whole lot I've noticed that's been happening like up front. Like we're like a lot of us are just waiting for stuff at this point. We only have one Kickstarter on the horizon, which is going to be a big Kickstarter. This is going to be a lot more work than they're probably used to having over at Pinnacle, because it's going to be involving not just like printed materials like on cardboard or paper, but it's going to include minis and just a lot of different elements that go into a board game that don't necessarily go into a lot of the Kickstarters they do for their other products. So I imagine this is going to be a lot of learning for them. There's going to be a lot of production they're going to have to go through, and a lot of things they're going to have to go through for the Kickstarter as well. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see here. Moving on. Let's go ahead and talk about some Kickstarters. So the Kickstarters that we were talking about, like I said, is the the Doomguard Kickstarter. Again, that's coming out in 2 weeks, so the 22nd. Be ready for that. And the other thing I wanted to mention is the Humble Bundle. So let's see if I can get this into a way that you guys actually see it better. Hopefully it looks a little bit better for you guys. Sort of. How does that look? That's doable. We'll always have to deal with that. This home bundle is, I think, quite insane. I've already purchased it myself because a lot of things falling on me. It's fine. I think it's fine. Probably just a little bit darker now. All right. We're just going to set this like over here. Hopefully that gives me a little bit of light. All right. So this home bundle is quite insane. I'll just talk about the Savage World stuff first. In the main bundle, you get Deadlands Weird West, the core rulebook for Deadlands Weird West, and the core rulebook for Savage Worlds. So you get the Suede book. You also get, let's see, where else we got here? Where is it? You also get the Tomorrow Legion Player's Guide for Savage Rifts. And if we keep going, you also get Pine Box Middle School. So you're getting the core rulebooks for Savage Worlds, and again, this is all PDF, in 3 different settings for Savage Worlds. Rifts, which is insane, Deadlands, which was like their the game for Pinnacle, the Weird West, and Pine Box Middle School. 3 different kind of genres, and it's just really cool to see. So you get the core rules and like 3 games to go with it. That's great. Even if you don't want this deal, you can actually go down to the 38 items bundle, which still gets you the Player's Guide for Tomorrow Rifts and the where is it? It also gets you Pine Box Middle School, I think. Pretty sure it does. Yeah, there it is. Pine Box Middle School. And then if you just want to get the 19 items, you also can still get the Pine Box Middle School. It's in here somewhere. Where'd it go? There it is. Pine Box Middle School. Now, personally, I got all 57 because obviously you guys know I love Savage Worlds. If I talk about Savage Worlds almost exclusively, and I pretty much only play Savage Worlds. That being said, I am always very sorry. I've been dealing with cough like ever since I got to Scotland. Even if you're got all these products for Savage Worlds, this is still an amazing deal to look at other games. So one of the things I actually really like to do is look at other games to see how they're handling mechanics, how they're doing things in a unique, interesting way, and how it adds to the fun of the game. What are the things that games do that makes their particular game unique? And so one of the things you get to do here is like see how all these different games are. There's actually like a lot of like core rule books. We've got the Modern Age core rule book. I think Starpunk Red is maybe based on something else. I can't remember. You get the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay book. We've got a lot of like small indie games as well. We also got some big games like Call of Cthulhu. We've got the Shield, Dragonbane, Cypher System. Where's the other ones? Obviously Savage Worlds. The basic role-playing game, the Universal Game Engine. I've been meaning to look at that one. I'm very interested in reading like more generic systems to see how they do things more generically. Outgunned, I read through this one. Not a fan. You have Mass, which is a pretty well-known game. Now, I will say a lot of these games are powered by the Apocalypse. I believe Avatar is powered by the Apocalypse. Also, we actually have the Apocalypse games. If you've heard powered by the Apocalypse, but you've never read what the Apocalypse game is, that's what it is. I will say I started reading it, and it's kind of crazy. Was not prepared mentally for what kind of stuff goes on in this game, the original game. I will say every other game that uses it, like Avatar and Root, which is in here as well, kind of tones it down. Is not as kind of weird as I think the Powered by the Apocalypse game itself is. And I'm sure there's probably another game in here that is also Powered by the Apocalypse. But yeah, so either way, I think this is an insanely good deal. $40 for all these different games. Like I'm even curious about the Power Rangers game. I haven't watched Power Rangers since I was a kid, but I'm curious. My wife and I not printed off, but we started creating a cat for the Be Like a Cat game. Where is it? We just need to I should get some stuff printed off because we're here in Scotland. We don't have access to our printer, so we can't really play this game. But it seems sorry, it seems very simple. Oh gosh. Yeah, I think this is just an insane deal. Check it out. And even if you're not needing stuff for Savage Worlds. Let's see here. So I think that's everything I have about that today. So let's go ahead and jump into our main topic. So the main thing I want to talk about today is I have been brainstorming this new way to do powers for quite some time. And to be clear, I love the power system as is, and I like the way it's customizable. And I'm not proposing any changes like, oh, the game is garbage and it should be this way instead. This is more just a reaction to certain feelings I've gotten from, at least from one of my players, maybe a couple of my players, and some feelings I've seen online where people just find that they find the spell lists in D&D more fun. They like the idea of going through and finding these different spells, having all these different spells to do different things, and each one being unique. One of the things that we often say here within the Savage community is oh, well, why do you need an acid splash and a firebolt and an ice dagger? Well, that's all basically the same power with bolt, right? What we just have one power called bolt, and you can trap it whatever you like. You can add different modifiers, and that's what exactly you want. And generally speaking, I agree. I think we don't need these three different things, and it takes up a lot of text, and it's very inefficient book wise, let alone just player wise. But so I had this idea then to okay, let's still say you want to offer something like that, because one of the things that people do mention is that technically acid splash, firebolt, and ice knife, I think those are the three, technically all do work differently. They do have slightly different things they do. They might do relatively the same damage. They don't really work the same way. But I think ice knife, I believe, and it might not be ice knife, maybe some other ice cantrip, does slow the target down a little bit. I think acid splash has some lingering damage as well that happens later on. And so with that in mind, my thought is that we could turn the power system into a powers creation system. And so let's go ahead and go over that. Again, I do love the power system as it is. I'm not saying we have to change it. I'm just saying this is just an idea I have. And I just want to talk it out. I want to hear your feedback and see what you think and tell me why this would be a problem or why what things that should change if we want to do something like this. In essence, we are sort of going more into a Vancian direction where the powers are, this is what you have, and you don't really any modification. And I know there's a lot more to Vancian magic than just that, but we'll just get into it a little bit. Now I'm trying to check the chat. I'll try to check the chat to make sure that I hear you guys' comments. Don't want to ignore you guys, but I'm reading off some notes here, so I'll make sure I don't miss those. Let's see, where to go? There we go. So again, if we turn this into a toolbox, we start with saying like, okay, we already know that like limitations and trappings are things that are already kind of like set in stone. When we're creating a spell or when we're taking powers, those things are generally like supposed to be set in stone when we cast the power the first time. That might be a book ruling that used to be like the first time you cast it, that's when you determine its trappings. I don't know if that's in Adventure Edition still, but that's generally what I've always kind of done. Is just the first time you use it, that's when you figure out your trapping. Now, what you would do in this case is that you would figure out what your trapping is, figure out whatever your limitations you want, but also figure out what modifiers you want on this power. And that becomes permanent. So if you want a ice bolt, you would take the bolt power with the ice trapping. And if you want the ice bolt to slow people down, you would take the slow modifier, which I should have. I have books out here. No, oh, it's right here. So books right here. If you look at our power section here, one of the powers modifiers we have for like generic Savage Worlds, like not specific to a particular power, just generic to all powers, is I think it's called the Hinder modifier. Hinder. The target is slowed in some way. Their base pace is reduced by 2 until their power expires. And that's like a super easy way to. Okay. Not sure what happened. My camera just like lost connection to the computer. Might have like bumped a cord or something. Things could be finicky. Anyways, let's see here. So I don't know where you guys lost me, but I'll just kind of go again. Yeah. So you can take modifiers, and the thing about modifiers currently is that modifiers are not things you need to modifiers you can determine on the fly. My proposition is that modifiers are things that you determine at the time you take the power. So like once you have your power with the trapping and with its limitations and with its modifiers, that is the power now and forever as far as you have it. You don't make changes. There's a couple of advantages to doing it this way. So first off, it does create like hundreds of combinations of powers, which is extremely like nice about Savage Worlds, that we have a lot of combinations of powers you can create. And I should kind of go back a little bit to say like one of the things I remember seeing about. I'll kind of adjust that. Sorry. Sorry, my mind just kind of lost where I was. So, if you once you take the power, the modifier, and the trappings, that's their power forever. The nice thing about that is it means that you're no longer calculating how many power points you're using, or if you're using the PowerPoint setting list rule, the PowerPoint list setting rule, you are not calculating your penalty to your casting either. You're just calculating. You're just calculating it once when you take the power, and that's it. So you don't need to make any changes later. You don't have to worry about trying to make multiple powers. It's just this is what it is. The nice part about also is that I know like one of the things that you're supposed to do, and I feel like people don't do very often, is giving the power a name. And so like when you create a power that is going to be like, this is what it does, or I'm not going to be changing it ever, it kind of adds to that feeling of, okay, my PowerPoint power is called Ice Blast or Ice Bolt, and it's going to do this one effect. You could even do it more like Slow Sludge, and you like hurl a thing of sludge, and not only does it hurt the person, but also it slows them down a little bit. That maybe Slow Sludge might actually be a slow power instead, but you kind of like get the idea, right? Where things are specific to what you're doing. yeah, so you're kind of like saying, okay, I'm going to create a power, and this is what the power does, and then that's what it's always going to do. The flip side, the other thing, it's not like that. The other thing you can do with this is, again, use the PowerPoint setting list rule. And I'm a big fan of the PowerPoint list. I keep saying setting list. PowerPoint list setting rule. It's one of my favorite setting rules. I know people have like mixed opinions about it. I really like it because it means that I can cast without worrying about PowerPoints. I don't have to keep track of ammunition, and it also or ammunition PowerPoints, and I don't have to worry about like using my bennies for PowerPoints. It's my least favorite reason, or my least favorite use case for bennies. And so the PowerPoint list rule just kind of gets rid of that entirely. And one of my problems with that rule is that it does add an extra layer of math when you're figuring out modifiers and everything to figure out what you need to roll at a penalty to cast your power. Well, this gets rid of all of that. And so, because what I'm proposing would be a one-time thing. Now, what you could do, and this is something I've got from Shadowdark, because this is a Shadowdark thing, I believe. And I think it's also a general OSR thing, where if you ever fail to cast, you do this with PowerPoints or with no PowerPoints. You can, if you fail to cast, you now lose access to this power until I think it's like the next long rest is usually what Shadowdark does, or something like that. And I really like that idea as well, because it makes it so it's like, I like that idea from Shadowdark in the first place. I like kind of giving that like OSR feel to Savage Worlds that way, if you're into that kind of thing. And that's something else I've been thinking about a lot, is just like how to get an OSR feel inside Savage Worlds. More just like the grittiness of like, and like dungeon crawliness, not necessarily the rest of it, I guess. I'm not sure what I'm saying. Not the rule simplicity, essentially. Essentially, I think what the most part you would do is just ignore a lot of rules in Savage Worlds to make it feel more simple for OSR games. Or maybe even getting rid of skills and only using attributes, I guess. Sorry, buddy. So yeah, so that's the kind of the idea in a nutshell. And I like it. Like, I want to play around with a little bit. Now you would have to make some changes though to make this work in a game. You'd have to adjust the starting powers that each class or each arcane background gets. And you'd also need to increase the amount of powers that the new edge power gets, or the new power edge gets. I'm so sorry. Currently, the new powers edge gets you 2 new powers. This would give you 3 instead, I think. I don't know that I haven't done a lot of math around like how much you're limiting a player by reducing their power point or their powers options this way, or saying like you have to choose your option. So it might actually be more that you should give a players per time every time they advance and take that new edge. I haven't done a whole lot of math on that yet, but right now I just said okay, increase that 1. Oh, sorry, I just had a thought, and I was, but yeah, so do the math. There might be more that you should be doing. And to be clear, I also wouldn't include the wizard edge as an option where you can change your trapping. I prefer the fantasy companions take on that, where you just shouldn't. Like, if you want to take a power that is a different trapping, so if you want to take, if you have firebolt, but now you want ice bolt, the fantasy companion actually says, hey, don't let them take the wizard edge. If they want to have an ice bolt and a firebolt, they need to take new powers to get the new bolt version. And I'm kind of like on that kind of page. Whereas in Pathfinder, you don't even need the wizard edge to change your trapping. You can just spend a power point and get the new trapping. So now this is a little bit similar, I think, in a sense to what people want in Vancian magic. And if you look up Zadmar has a blog post from 10 years ago on doing Vancian magic inside of Savage Worlds. And this is where I was going to share my screen again. Share screen. There we go. So Zadmar, pretty well known in the community. If you go like the Savage Worlds Discord server, he's on there quite a bit. Cool dude. Has a lot of cool articles I've read on Savage Worlds. And this is one's on Vancian magic. So here's like some snippets, right? I love Savage Worlds. Half of the guys in my group love Savage Worlds, but part of what keeps our other half from jumping on board, at least for fantasy campaign, is the lack of fantasy and magic system. This was a post over on some other place here, Newtown, 2010. Their comment about this: lack of spells, lack of fantasy magic. Because fantasy DNA, fantasy magic is hard coded into the many gamers' DNA. Yeah, that's a true point. A lot of people are expecting fantasy magic. I think in a way we're giving them a form of fantasy magic, or at least something similar to fantasy magic, but a little bit different. Now, there is a PDF, though, and this is what I wanted to bring out, that Zemmour put out for free. This is linked in that article, with a bunch of rules for different casters and such. Again, this is for Deluxe Edition, so just keep that in mind. This is not updated for Savage Worlds Adventure Edition. And the main thing I'm going to look at, though, is spells. So here's an acid bolt, right? So this is bolt, right? This is bolt at the base level. And you have this trapping acid, obviously. But what this does here is says, instead of inflicting a plus d6 damage on a raise, you get to do another 2d6 damage at the beginning of the following turn. Unless it's somehow like removed or neutralized as acid can be. That's super cool. That's way more... Sorry, gosh. That's way more evocative, in my opinion. Instead of way more evocative, in my mind. And what I would do if this, and then so I think a lot of this in here, is I would want to turn some of these ideas of taking like powers and modifying them and turn them into their own modifiers for certain powers. So and this might even be like a zero cost modifier. Say, okay, hey, you can have your raises either do plus d6 or you could have them do 2d6 next turn. And that would be like a zero cost modifier that you would choose on the creation of your power, right? And you're naming it, right? You're naming it, you're setting its limitations, you're setting its modifiers, you're setting its trappings, all that. So let's scroll down here. I'm going to choose a random one. Let's look right here. Let's do Conceal Allegiance. This spell must be cast on a creature of object with a holy or unholy. Okay, so this requires you have, certain abilities. So maybe that's a little bit of a bad example. There's a lot in here, by the way, guys. Like we're still in the D's, and I've been scrolling for a bit. Find location. This spell requires 10 minutes to cast. Okay, allows you to create blah, blah. That is a thought you could do. Is you could also have certain take powers that require ritual casting, so they wouldn't actually have which would probably eliminate some penalties, unless they say otherwise. Because some powers do require you to have a full hour. I think the modifier for healing, which is it's a healing power. Greater restoration, I think, or not, something like that. It requires you to have an hour of time. Here we go. Fireball. This spell shoots a tiny bead of swirling orange and yellow energy towards a targeted point in space, etc. Medium blast template. Cool. Those who fail to evade with an opposed agility roll suffer 2d6 damage. Roll on the flammable target to see if anything gets fire. No, nothing for a raise though. Here I've improved. 2d8. No. Oh, there's nothing before. I was expecting this to be just anything similar where it's 2d6 next turn or plus a d6. But you get the idea. So, yeah. Point being is that I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on having that kind of thing where we can do designated powers saying hey, this is the power I'm taking. It's the only way the power's going to work. How would you think about it working with PowerPoint list systems? Into the comments, what do I think about combining powers? For example, about a power that combines a reflect and damage field. Also, so I like the idea in general. Like the idea, I have thought before that certain powers would be nice to be able to combine. Reflect and damage field. I'm not sure of those particular two. Let's see here. Reflect. Just want to make sure you get the wording right. That's all. And also looking at the PowerPoint costs. and how we basically ensure that there's not a power creep by doing that, or like making things like super broken by doing that. If you're doing PowerPoint less setting rules, I don't think I see as big a problem, because when you do that, fair enough. Deflex, yeah, got it. When you do that, if you do the PowerPoint less system, you're making it more difficult to cast, and so it might be fine. So deflection. And what was it with damage field? Yeah. So damage field costs 4 power points. Deflection costs 2 power points. So you either have it cost 6 power points with the same duration. You definitely have to have some sort of like limits on things. Like they have the same duration, yes. They have to have the same. They have to have the same. Ooh, I think what I would say is I'm okay. I think I'd be okay with the idea, but what I might do is say, okay, you have to combine the PowerPoints first. So combine it. So say it's so combine it first. So it would be 6 PowerPoints. They has to have the same trapping, right? You have to make sense trapping wise. And then I would say that limitations only apply after you combine them. So you don't get to to apply limitations to both of them. So if you want to get personal, right? Or touch, I should say. So if you say make a touch, you'd have to reduce instead of reducing damage field and deflection by 1, so we're reducing the damage field to 3 and deflection to 1 and combine them to 4. You just combine them to 6 and then take off 1 power point. That way it doesn't make it too broken. I think that's the way I would do it. I like the idea in essence. I'm just not sure what the safest way to do it and to ensure that we don't create broken powers. We can also say, like, because you're getting around the multi-action rule, you might just impose a -2 inherently on powers that are cast, powers that are combined. So it's like if you were doing a PowerPoint system one, you might just say like, hey, when any combined power just, oh gosh. All right, I'm back. I'm not sure what, like, StreamYard is saying that there is an issue with certain versions of Chrome and certain features, but I'm not using those features. So yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't, that time I did not touch anything, so I don't know what. Not sure what's causing it, because I didn't touch the cords or anything this time. What is happening is that Chrome just stops talking to my camera. My camera is like, hey, we lost connection. I'm not like I'm plugging USB or anything. I'm just like refreshing the page and it's fixing it. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. Anyway, but other idea. Either way, I think there's a lot of things we could do here to make something really cool. And for people who are looking for a more Vancian system, they might enjoy this a little bit more, because they still get to create their powers, but they are set in stone once they create them. And I think we can create some really cool ideas with having like different modifiers and everything. So I think we basically have a place where we can add in modifiers specific for this idea, because like that idea of like changing for on a raise, you get to do 2d6 next turn versus doing extra d6 now. I think that could be like a better thing for this situation specifically, but not necessarily for normal Savage Worlds. I like the idea of combining powers. I'm just not sure, as we just have to make sure we do it in a safe way that isn't going to make things broken. And yeah, so I'd love to hear your ideas, hear your thoughts. Maybe what I'll do at some point is actually get this written up into some sort of like more official looking document and talk about it, and you guys can help me figure out a cool system that we can share for everybody else. Anyways, that's all I had today. Again, just really want to hear your thoughts, hear on everything. By the way, and I'm kind of going back to it, check out that bundle on Humble Bundle. It's a really good bundle. I'm learning a lot by reading different RPGs and learning how game design works for getting different feelings, different tones. And honestly, a lot of these books have really good information for insight on how to run your game in a way that players enjoy playing with you and have a good time. So check out those out. Check out the Home Bundle and leave any comments down below about some sort of new system for cool new power systems. Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day and enjoy your week. I'll see you all next week.